Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Are the Opera Power with Gail and Jane. Hey, Jane.
Hi, Gail. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Now, this is going to be kind of a different type of chat because we purposely didn't talk beforehand. We're going to hear
The real thing.
the roots of our conversation, and then we usually take what we talk about and then share it. But this time we're trying something a little bit different where we haven't talked for a couple of days. And so here's where we're going to have our conversation. And what we decided to focus it around is just what we did the last couple of days, the last week or so, what's been coming up for each of us. Because as you know, everybody's a work in progress. It's not just, do this for a month and then everything is.
It's not just me.
No.
I'm not the only one working.
No, not at all.
Oh, good.
Like a lifelong thing. Of course, it gets easier as the more you understand, but then, mountains still come up to increase your understanding further, because I don't think there's ever a time that we are fully in this body and being able to say, I know it all. Although I'm not going to limit myself and I'll live in that end, but
yes,
it's a work in progress, I think, for all of us. So why don't you start, Jane?
Okay, so
talking.
As usual, as soon as I start, no, I shouldn't say that. I won't put that in the universe.
Well,
my work.
What's interesting about that is that's kind of like you're showing outside what your inner conversation is.
Yes.
Well, and I'm that. No, that's not what I meant. That's not what I don't think that way anymore. This is what I meant. So
yeah. So for me, I had some stuff come up that showed me the other side of judgment, and it was personal. It felt like a personal attack, but I kind of stood in my power about it, and I thought, well, I get it coming from that person's reality, what they're doing and thinking. And then so instead of reacting, I did the deeper work of asking myself, is there anything in here that I have sent out and that's coming? First of all, is this a boomerang effect from what I've been thinking? And pardon?
It always is.
Yeah. So
the answer is always yes.
yes. And it was and some are easy and some are harder, right?
Well, the thing is, you don't want to spend, I get it, but you don't want to spend a lot of time thinking, when did I imagine that? Well,
right.
For that to happen.
So
it's not always specific. Like, you don't have to imagine, a specific thing to happen for that thing to happen.
Right.
Let me just quickly give you just an example that Neville actually used.
Okay.
And I think I may have used this before, but there was a guy that wanted to sell his house. So he imagined the house he wanted to buy a house. So he imagined this house that he wanted. The house came up, showed itself to him. He went through the process, getting all the financing and all of that sort of stuff. And then he started to have, he sat back for a minute and had a few doubts. Like, I don't know, can I afford this every month? Is this really what I want? Like, it's an awful lot of money. And so then he's like, no, yes, this is what I want. I got the money. No problem. And he went back to the house and it was sold. So what had happened in that case is those doubts that he had created this new buyer.
Oh, yeah.
And then so he lost the house because of his fear and his doubts, which showed up as this new buyer who bought the house without question.
Well,
so you can't always sort of pin exactly where I imagined that, because it's not the specific thing, but it's that feeling
Okay, yes,
it's
definitely.
created in
Yeah, it was,
various
yeah.
scenarios. So that's why we have all of these different experiences that we maybe wouldn't expect. Because I mean, who would imagine murdering somebody, right? Yet people get murdered.
yes,
You're against that, but then you're eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, being against it and not for it, making it bad. And, it's so it's a little bit more complicated than I didn't imagine that. Like, well, you maybe didn't imagine that specific thing, but you have an acceptance somewhere within your consciousness of
yes,
this kind of feeling
yes.
of yourself or others.
Okay, so that kind of actually applies to what definitely I experienced, because I've had this before where my how I'm expressing something comes back to me in a different form. So I would say my intention was pretty clear and clear cut without a lot of it wasn't really an emotional thing, but it came back as an emotional thing. So I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't where, but then the things that were said to me were judgments. So I knew immediately, which I knew immediately not to react. And my response was basically just to mirror back what was being said to me in the best way I could, to sort of respond but not react. And then
So just before, so when you say mirror back, what does that mean? You're like, they're already mirroring to you
right. So
in your consciousness. So you mirrored that same thing back to them?
yeah, kind of, I guess, which was kind of weird, but I just,
So it's like going back and forth.
yeah, kind, yeah, exactly. So
So
I,
was that something then there, like how I would look at it? It's like, okay, what they're reflecting back to me, what my reaction is, or my thoughts, what the conversation that gets triggered in my head is telling me about this, is telling me about me.
yes,
Oh, if it's like, Jane, you're a stupid B. Like if you say Gail, you say to me, Gail, you're a B. Like my reaction is, okay,
right.
deal, or my reaction is, no, you're a B yourself. Then that's bouncing the same thing.
Yeah, it was kind, yeah, it was
It's
kind
kind
of
of
like,
useless because it's
yeah,
always you. It always,
I know. And my first thought was not to respond at all, because it was like an but then, so anyway, so moving past that, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna take the what was said and turn it on to myself and say, okay, you're this thing. Where did this come from within you? So it was actually good for me, because I dug deeper and I was like, okay, so maybe this is true. Like maybe this, well, it obviously is true. So I,
give an example.
okay, so,
It doesn't have to be the situation, but just give an example of
well, like you said, someone says, oh,
saying.
you're being a bitch.
Okay.
You know, you're being, whatever. So I was like, I I was like, okay, well then I'm a bitch. Let's look at that. I'm a bitch. Where was I a bitch? Why am I a bitch? What, like, where is that coming up for me? Where did I bring that up? Like, where did that go out? So I kind of thought, okay, well, yeah, I can be a bitch for sure. Like, I'm not, there's not, I couldn't say that I'm not. So I was like, okay, I forgive myself for whatever it was that, would be, for sending that out, for being a bitch. Like, or being in judgment about somebody else being a bitch, or
So
however.
basically accepting that,
Yes,
actually accepting that as part of your consciousness
yes,
for others.
yes,
Could be a bitch or somebody else could be a bitch.
yes,
No, not in my reality. That's not how it is now. I know everybody's really kind and respectful.
yes.
Forgive that. And because I know everybody's kind and respectful.
Yeah, it was more like I forgave myself and others for that. And then I was like, because I know that we're better than that, and I don't need to feed into that narrative to resolve it for myself. And I didn't have to resolve it out there either. I just left it. I just thought, no.
There is no resolve out there.
Exactly.
The only resolve is in here.
Well, exactly. So I would say that it was interesting because I think it's like that conversation, we've talked about this before, like I could never do that. Like being resistant to something that's being shown to you, and oh, I could never do that, or and then I was like, well, yeah, I definitely could be that. That wasn't my intention, and I didn't want it to be that way. And
well, the thing is, when you're being shown something, it's, if you're aware of it, which is a response back to you, gives you awareness of it.
yes,
It's just showing you what's in your consciousness.
yes,
How does it get into your consciousness? Is by accepting it of yourself or others. So
yeah,
you may not have been a bitch before, but you are aware of other people can be bitches or bitchy. And so it wasn't necessarily in the moment that you truly were a bitch, but that was just confronting you that, well, you think that exists.
right.
He thinks that, either yourself or others could be bitches or bitchy.
Yeah, true, true.
You're angry or whatever it is.
Actually, it's
Okay. That's showing you.
Okay, in all fairness, it was a fear then, because I brought it up with fear because I had to talk about something, and I had thought previously about it with fear. So I had set myself up for it being reflected back to me. And I think
there's nothing wrong with that though. That's good, because now you recognize
right.
That was in your consciousness. It just doesn't fit for you.
Yes.
Give and no, people are always respectful, or people are always really helpful, or whatever it is you want to replace it with in your consciousness.
Right. And also
it's this is how bad when this stuff comes up.
Yes.
There's no need for judgment of self.
Right. Right.
Either good or bad.
Right.
It's just okay, you know what? This is what love is. This is attention is given or used to be given to this. And that's not love anymore for me. This is love because this is what is in my consciousness.
Definitely. And it was also another layer of sort of the forgiveness onion within, like thinking I have totally forgiven myself for things from the past or fears or having.
It's your consciousness. See,
right.
Take it as myself.
Okay.
Personal.
Right.
Yes, it is your consciousness, but there's only one, right?
Right.
So you're kind of cleaning up your section, but that doesn't mean, in the case that we use, you're not a bitch. Even if you are acting or reacting like a bitch, Jane, her behavior is bitchy, but Jane is not a bitch.
Right.
Jane has bitchiness in her consciousness, but
right.
Never be the bitch.
Right.
So it's kind of separating so it's not personal.
Well,
it's your consciousness. That's as close as the personal comes.
Well, and in this case, it was just some stuff that was shown to me that I was like, oh, okay, well, obviously somewhere I've been, and I would say it's probably fear had motivated that to be reflected back. Oh, remember.
Or just that's you're a part of your path. It's coming up because it's coming.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to attach a story to it.
Right. So that was
How could it be fear? You don't have fear.
right.
I mean, like you're starting this story that's going to, well, I had fear, so I brought that up.
Okay. Okay.
Bring the fear, and more fearful, more things come up based on fear. Like it's okay. It's
Yes.
okay. This is being shown to me as being part of my consciousness. No, it doesn't really fit for me anymore. I forgive
Yeah.
myself. It's cleared out of your consciousness.
Yeah.
Everybody is really happy or really successful or whatever it is that you want to replace it with.
Yeah.
Because you are a success, regardless of what anybody says to you or what you're holding in your consciousness. So in clearing your consciousness, that's when you're able to start feeling more and more that you are, well, love basically is at your root.
Right.
You are is love.
Yes.
Clear out your consciousness, then you can start feeling that more. It's not about other people,
Yes.
about you. So when you accept it at some point that people can be really cranky,
Mm-hmm.
I can be cranky or somebody else can be cranky, that's taking away from you being able to feel that you are love, not only your consciousness, but you as the being. Because you as the being are never the bitch. You're never the cranky one. Your behavior is
Mm.
in your consciousness.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Good.
Yeah, and it's just well, I feel like my reaction before would have been to go down the rabbit hole of trying to
Defend yourself.
defend, and I didn't do any of that, and I was like, well, that's not how I think, and I know that other person doesn't think that way, and it's all good, all is well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Julio.
yeah, so what about you?
Well, I've been focusing. Rita had a video the other day, and I mean, she's done this before, and it's crossed my mind, and then it kind of leaves about the whole, well, what my other friend Cindy calls the God sandwich.
Mm.
Recognize that in an attempt, I guess, for me to remain and that we are all one, sort of like there is only one. And so that's focusing on the one and just appreciating that. And because there's so much out there to get caught up on, I'm like, nah, you know what? This is gonna be my main focus for, and she only came out with that video yesterday. So it's for the next week, specifically for this week. I mean, it's gonna go on longer, but I always have to talk myself into things for a week at a time. So that's
And
focus is gonna be just like, yeah, it's all God, man. And it's wonderful. And, just recognize all of the abundance.
well, yeah, because I feel like it's easy to, like, even in person, even one-on-one, it's easy to split love in two with judgment, like go into this whole judgment, and actually forgiveness and judgment seem to be like, if find myself in judgment, then my first thought is forgiveness, and then it's like, oh, okay, so that took away the fear, because maybe underneath that fear is that I couldn't forgive myself, like, like,
Well, see, those are the stories though that we start into. It's in your consciousness. You accept
right,
it as true of yourself or of others.
right,
You start looking at it that way. It takes all that analyzing and rationalizing and trying to make the logic out of it. You don't have to go through there, because when you start the stories, then you're creating, oh, well, maybe I was fearful and maybe there's something under it. And you're going to have more fear coming up where you're going to be thinking there's something like, it's like, when your tires are spinning sort of thing, right?
yeah. So when I'm forgiving myself, it's like basically what I'm saying to myself is all is well. I don't need to uh I don't need to try and like figure it out. That's, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
that's
I like the way Rita describes it when you, because these things are chains around our heart.
ah,
When you forgive, you're breaking those chains, cleaning the slate.
mm,
And that's why it's so important to replace it with what you want.
yes.
So I'm not, I forgive people that, and I forgive, the idea that there's bitchiness in my consciousness of others. I maybe did accept it at one time of others or myself, but I forgive all of that now. So that's cleaning the slate. I know everybody is respectful, is kind, is generous, whatever you want to replace. And then the key after that is that's your new go-to. Like, no,
Right.
that's like your
Yes.
some focus, because you may run into somebody that's bitchy again. And you're like, no, I forgave that. Everybody's, so you go back to,
Yes.
other than taking the time to analyze,
Yes.
did that already. Like, why? What else now am I missing? Like, what's been,
Right.
is that more fear? No. That's just like an orange that's just come up. Just as, are you sure? Are you sure you believe that everybody is kind and generous and respectful? Are you sure? Yes. And so, and the whole thing is counterintuitive, because when you do forgive, then, and you think you're not dealing with it, you actually really are dealing with it, and it doesn't come up in your face anymore.
Mm,
You think you have to tell somebody to stop being like that,
mm,
to be like that, and that's going to change them.
right.
Well, fact, the changing goes within your mind of forgiveness, and I know everybody's respectful, and then that's how they end up showing up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the more natural it is to you, the more you run into people that are nice, respectful, whatever it is that you want.
Yes.
So it's like it's almost like you have snow on your lawn. You forgive, that's, or not on your lawn, on your driveway. You forgive, that's to shovel. You get rid of all the snow, and then you have an open driveway. So now you can drive easily on it. You're not slippering. You're not getting wet. It's not frozen. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yes.
You've cleared the way.
Yeah.
Live from that place, because that's what I want, is a clear driveway. I don't want ice on it. I don't want snow on it. So I'm forgiving, and which is like the shovel, clearing off the driveway. And then I have my perfect driveway, and that's what I want. And that's where I'm going to live from. Even if there's a little bit of snow, and that's all right. I drive easily on my driveway. It's a great driveway. It's a safe, I mean, some of those use for for driveway, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shovel is like clearing everything. But if if you doubt or you react, then the snow starts coming back on your driveway.
Yeah. I definitely think that with thoughts, especially, that we've talked about, that judgment for me has like I'm working on it. I'm aware that,
Well, it's for
okay,
everybody, and
it's gonna be it's gonna be in my thoughts, but it doesn't have to. I don't have to fix it. I just have to acknowledge, oh, that's I
forgive.
I don't, yeah, forgive.
Yeah,
I
forgive
don't think
that.
that. I don't think of them
Yeah.
that way, and I don't think of myself that way. And like you said, interesting, behavior is not the person. And that, I think, probably gets confused as well when,
Well, the way Neville says it, it's a state. So there's no point the person is just in a state.
right.
And so it's not the person, it's himself or herself. It's
Yeah.
the state that we're actually holding them in.
Yes.
So, and anybody can be, I mean, you know, and I know for myself, like we can change states like that.
Yeah.
And so we can do the same for other people, hold them in a different state. It's not the person
Hmm.
they're in.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. All good.
Yeah.
This is a
All
short
good.
one. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for sharing. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hope you find this of value. Please leave us a message, like, share. We appreciate you.
Have a good day.
Thanks so
Bye
much.
for now.
Bye-bye.